This is a part 2 to the dinosaur editing video. What I did was take my speed square and or you can use it doesn't matter, whatever measuring tape you end up having. But you want to take your camera and move it out as far as possible and then zoom in. If you have a pretty high pixel phone, you should be able to get the resolution that you need. But what it does is it helps keep that fisheye sort of trouble that you run into whenever you zoom you get too far in on an image. So I've zoomed out probably about about 3 feet or so away from the piece of paper, and then zoomed in and then took the photo. But I also create a reference line, so Alt T again. No, it does keep it the same way. Well, that doesn't matter. We can always rotate it again later. Notice that it's picking up some of the shadow, so that's where we go back to altering what it is we do and don't want. So we'll move this up just a little bit and kind of fidget with this a little bit so it starts to fade in. We'll move these some more until we get to a better crisp outline. Notice that if your ink line doesn't come in, that's okay. We'll just adjust it and make another one. You'll see a few other artifacts in here. We can clean that up later, or you can go to this ignore less than, and just start clicking up on it until it starts eliminating some of those little circles and dots that show up around, and that should help you. And this won't be a problem. We can just use our node editing to get rid of that, some of the incidental little things. But that should be close enough. Let's go ahead and press OK. And that creates a lot of geometry. But for now, we'll use this, put it off to the side for a moment. Go back to this again, Alt T, and we are going to use I think the default will be just fine. Let's zoom in on that a little bit better. So this line, we just want to make sure that we're getting somewhere towards the end of this line, and that should be very close to scaling to our 5 inches. So now we'll say OK. We'll drag this off to the side. We now don't need this. We don't need that one. Get all this other junk out of the way for a minute. So effectively what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to retain this line, but also keep this more crisp reference. So now it's time to go and clean up some of this extra trash that comes through. So we'll select on our left model that we did first. We will do Control U, which is ungroup. Now we should be able to move this stuff independently, and we should be able to delete things independently. So let's surround this up here, delete that. We can go to this one now on the right, select it, notice it's still grouped after you create the vector. We'll do Control U. Now this is independent. We want to delete this one because that wasn't as clean as this left one. And we'll also get rid of the ruler. And we looks like we have a bunch of other stuff in here too. Let's go ahead and get rid of that junk. Get rid of that too. We're going to move that out of the way because sometimes some of these artifacts are a little sneaky and they'll get in there. But seeing how these came from the exact same photo and you're using this line here, you should be able to see what the width of that line is. And you kind of want to make sure that this is straight because you could have a line that's sort of, moved out of the way or sideways or whatever, or not completely parallel with what you wanted on the dinosaur here. So let's use our use a reference line and we'll draw it. So we'll click over here. It's kind of floating around, right? Press shift and it will lock it to 0 degrees. We'll draw it out a little bit, make it substantially different than, or longer or shorter than your other line. That way we're not getting confused. We'll move this up, go to our dinosaur. We can rotate him back a little, and that sort of levels him out. And that should be close enough. We'll take our line and bring it up top, and take our reference line and move it down. We'll probably make that a different color. So let's zoom in, zoom out. We'll go over, and to avoid some of this snapping, you can hold Control down while you're dragging, and this will fit right over top. So now that we're sort of centered here, let's zoom out and we'll go to this other end and then we'll rotate it just a touch. There you go. And now that is pretty flat. So and the whole point of that is to make sure that your width dimension, let's change this to inches here, so we'll select that. See how this is at 31 inches? That's way too big. So we need to bring that down to the 5-inch line that we had created. So let's delete this other reference line. We don't need that anymore. But if we go to adjust this without adjusting this, it's not going to work, right? So now we want to select both of these, do Control G to group them, and we should be able to bring this dinosaur down to the 5-inch mark. So we'll take our width and make sure that you have your aspect ratio locked, so anytime you move your width, it also moves your height proportionally. So let's just type in 5 inches wide. And if we were careful not to go over the edge, and we did a little bit, if you wanted to be a little bit more precise with this, we could, and say you didn't have enough room to draw all the way over, or you forgot or something like that, let's just make another line that's 1 inch long, right? 1 inches. Right click to unselect, select. Oh, let me get off of that. Press escape. Now we're back to the selection button. Click on our line here, and we were pretty close to 1 inches, but 1 inch, tab, and that's on your width. Let's now put these end on end. Let's zoom in as much as we can. We don't, like I said, we don't have to be perfect, but we do want to be close. So zoom in some more. This is fine right here for what our application is. And don't let this throw you off. It sort of extends a little bit past that point of the end of it. But now, if we take First of all, we will select our dinosaur in our line that was here. We'll do Control U. Now they're ungrouped. We can move this around separately. Let's surround our line and our new line to get our total of 6 inches. We'll group those, scoot them over, not too much, but you want to go past the nose and past the tail. That way you have the full extent of this box on the width being referenced. And then surround the whole thing again. Control G, that groups all of our pieces together now. And then we scale this to put this to 6 inches on our width. Press 6 and then tab. And now you saw it blew it up just a touch. Now we were a little off because we saw our tail was hanging over a bit, but that's how you solve that issue, by extending that line if you didn't already have it or your reference line was a little funky when you took your photo, or you, like I said, you were limited. But there you go. That should help you out with scaling parts from the real world into Lightburn. Let me know if you have any questions. Sure about some of the process that I went through here. Just put some stuff in the comments and I'll try to respond to it as fast as I can. Thanks.